To act as if you are already chosen is to step into the realm where imagination becomes reality. It is to no longer wait for a sign, no longer seek confirmation, no longer plead for validation from the outer world. It is to move with the certainty that you have already been set apart, already been anointed, already been whispered about in the divine halls of destiny. There is a difference between wanting to be chosen and knowing you are. And the world will never respond to your wishes. It will only reflect your assumption. You do not need to prove your worth. You need only to embody it. Walk into the room with the quiet authority of someone whose name has already been called, not because the world gave you permission, but because you gave yourself the permission to be. You act as if you are already chosen, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. The chosen ones are not loud, they are certain. They do not chase, they attract. They do not beg, they expect. To be chosen is not to be better than others, it is to become more aware of the truth that has always been hidden in your soul. You were not overlooked, you were being prepared. You were not rejected, you were being redirected. You were not forgotten, you were being formed in the silence, in the waiting, in the stillness that cultivates power. So when you act as if you are already chosen, you are not pretending, you are awakening. You are calling forth the version of you that has always been, buried under layers of doubt, fear, and comparison. The imagination is the bridge between what is and what is yet to be. When you imagine yourself as chosen, you do not need to see evidence, you become the evidence. You breathe differently, you speak with clarity, you carry yourself with the invisible weight of purpose. People cannot explain it, but they feel it. They do not understand why you stand out, but they cannot ignore it. And that is the power of assumption. Not because you waited for the world to tell you who you are, but because you declared it first within the sacred sanctuary of your inner world. You must seize the inner conversation of unworthiness. You must stop rehearsing the narrative of being passed over. When you shift your identity, the world has no choice but to respond. The phone call comes. The opportunity arrives. The people change. Not because the world moved, but because you did. Because your consciousness relocated from lack to abundance, from rejection to favor, from questioning to knowing. That knowing becomes the vibration that reorganizes the entire structure of your life. There is no outer change without inner conviction. When you act as if you are already chosen, your posture changes. Your decisions carry weight. You no longer settle. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer lower your voice in the presence of doubt. You speak with the authority of someone who knows who they are and what they carry. And in doing so, you command the unseen to take form. Every chosen one was once hidden. Every light had to first shine in the dark. Do not despise the silence. It is there that the seeds of greatness take root. You act as if you are already chosen, not because of what you see, but because of what you believe. The world cannot crown what you do not first claim. You must own your place in the story before the story ever begins to make sense. You must walk as if the chapter has already been written, and your name is etched into the pages of significance. This is not delusion. It is alignment. This is not fantasy. It is the first act of creation. Before the foundation of the world, you were known. You were set apart. You were chosen, not for ease, but for impact, not for applause, but for purpose, not to blend in, but to stand out. And when you finally believe that, when you finally embody it, the world will have no choice but to catch up to the reality you have already accepted. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are remembering that you already are. Act like it. Speak like it, live like it, believe like it, because the moment you do, everything around you begins to bend to that truth. To assume the identity of the chosen before the world recognizes it is to live in the truth that reality begins not with what you see, but with what you accept as true within yourself. You do not become the chosen one because people point at you, applaud you, or give you titles. You become the chosen one the moment you assume it so deeply that it becomes impossible for the world not to reflect it. The outer world is but a shadow cast by the light of your inner conviction. And if within you the image is weak, unsure, or doubting, then what you see externally will echo that doubt. But if within you the image is whole, certain, unwavering, then the world cannot help but shift in response. This is the foundation of all transformation. Everything that is visible was once invisible. Everything that now appears was once imagined. And to act as if you are already chosen is to stand boldly in that invisible place and call yourself worthy before the crown ever touches your head. It is to speak from the throne while still standing in the hallway. It is to wear the robe of destiny while others still see rags. This is the act of faith that bends the world. It is the inner movement that unlocks the doors the outer self could never force open. What you accept as true within becomes the script by which your life plays out. If you constantly think of yourself as overlooked, forgotten, or rejected, then even when opportunities come, you will sabotage them, because your identity will not allow you to receive what contradicts your self-image. You may desire greatness, but if you believe yourself to be ordinary, you will hide from the very stages you prayed for. You may crave love, but if you believe you are unworthy, you will chase people who confirm your unworthiness. Your assumption is the soil. The world is merely the harvest. To change the harvest, you do not beg the sky for rain. You change the seed. You plant a new idea, one that aligns with your divine truth. And that truth is simple. You are already chosen. Chosen not by man, but by something greater. Chosen not because you earned it, but because you exist. Chosen not because of perfection, but because your soul carries something this world needs. The moment you dare to believe that and hold it as your internal reality, the external will bow in response. But many people wait. They wait for the job, the applause, the title, the partner, the opportunity. They wait to feel chosen because they think being chosen is something granted from the outside. They do not realize that the delay is not in the world, but in their own self-image. They say, once I get the opportunity, I'll believe I'm worthy. But the law of life doesn't work that way. You must first believe you are worthy. Then the opportunity arrives. You must first embody the feeling of the chosen before the crown becomes visible. This is why some people seem to attract success with ease. Not because they are more talented or more deserving, but because they have aligned their inner world with the reality they desire. They see themselves as worthy, so life mirrors back worthiness. They carry themselves as if they matter, and so the world treats them accordingly. You are not different. The only difference lies in the assumption you are nurturing within yourself. If you dare to change that assumption, everything else changes automatically. This is not about pretending. It is not about faking it or putting on a mask. It is about becoming deeply honest with yourself and deciding, without external evidence, that you are chosen. It is about seeing yourself through the eyes of the divine, through the eyes of completion, through the eyes of already being. And when that shift takes place, something sacred awakens inside you. You begin to walk differently, not with arrogance, but with assurance. You begin to speak differently, not to impress, but to express the truth you now carry. Even if the world has labeled you as unremarkable, even if your past is filled with failure, even if no one around you sees your value, you must see it for yourself. You must declare within your own consciousness that you are the one, not because the world said so, but because something deeper within you has claimed it. And once claimed, you do not need to justify it. You simply live from it. Life will test that assumption. You will have moments where nothing looks like the truth you carry within. But those moments are not evidence that you are wrong. They are opportunities to reinforce your inner world, to choose again, to declare again, to assume again. And the more you persist in that assumption, the more real it becomes, not just internally, but outwardly as well. To assume the identity of the chosen is to live from the end. It is to see yourself already at the finish line, even when you are just stepping onto the track. It is to feel the victory before the crowd ever cheers. It is to rehearse the feeling of being accepted, celebrated, and known, even in the absence of proof. And eventually that feeling becomes so dominant that the world cannot resist conforming to it. The imagination is your doorway. Use it. Close your eyes and see yourself where you desire to be. Not once, but daily. Not passively, but emotionally. Do not just visualize. Feel. What would it be like to be chosen, to be seen, known, and respected? What would you think? How would you walk? What would you wear? What decisions would you make? Begin to embody those answers now. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because your now is the seed of your future. And when your inner world accepts the truth that you are already chosen, your outer world begins the process of reflecting it in full. To shift from seeking validation to radiating certainty is to cross a threshold within the self where the opinions of others no longer shape your identity. It is to abandon the constant craving for approval that has kept you trapped in cycles of self-doubt. The world trains you to seek confirmation, to wait for applause, to look outward for signs that you are enough. But the truth is, nothing outside of you can ever certify what must be known within. The moment you make peace with that truth, a remarkable transformation begins. You stop asking, "Am I worthy?" and begin declaring, "I am." Validation is a subtle prison. It masquerades as motivation, but it binds you to the whims of others. You modify your behavior, your speech, your dreams, even your appearance, hoping someone out there will nod in approval and give you permission to be who you already are. But those who are truly chosen don't wait for applause. They carry their own. They do not depend on others to recognize their worth, because they've already made that decision internally. And in doing so, they radiate a certainty so powerful that it bends the environment around them. When you radiate certainty, you become magnetic. There's a quiet power in those who know who they are. They don't compete, they don't compare, and they don't chase. They simply stand rooted in the soil of their own worth and allow the world to rearrange itself around their conviction. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It must be lived, breathed, embodied. And once it is, everything begins to shift. Doors open that once remained shut. People listen when once you were ignored. The same words, spoken from a place of self-doubt, fall flat. But when spoken from certainty, they carry the weight of authority. This is the great reversal. You stop asking life to give you a sign that you matter. You start living like someone who matters already. You walk into rooms not wondering if you belong, but knowing you do. And that knowing does not come from arrogance. It comes from alignment. You have aligned your inner world with the truth of your being. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are living like you already are. When you radiate certainty, you release the need to be understood. Not everyone will see you clearly. Some will project their fears onto you. Some will diminish you because your light threatens the darkness they've made peace with. But it will not move you because you no longer need their understanding to justify your journey. You no longer need to explain yourself. You simply are, and that is enough. People feel this. Even if they can't explain it, they feel the weight of someone who is rooted. It's in your silence, your gaze, your posture. It's in the decisions you make when no one is watching. It's in your refusal to beg for love, chase opportunity, or compromise your standards. You are no longer performing, you are expressing. You are no longer bending to fit, you are expanding to be. This shift is not external, it is deeply spiritual. It is not about what you say, it is about what you believe as you say it. And belief, once anchored, becomes unshakable. This journey begins when you stop looking outward for validation, when you stop checking if people are clapping, when you stop asking if your efforts are being seen. Instead, you turn inward and recognize that the divine has already approved of you. The universe does not make accidents. You were not sent here to doubt your light. You were sent here to shine. You were not created to fit into someone else's mold. You were created to reflect the image of your own divine design. There is a sacred confidence in those who have stopped seeking. It is not loud, it does not boast, it does not scream for attention. It simply exists with such purity that everything impure begins to fall away. In that space, relationships change. Some people leave, not because you changed, but because they were only drawn to your former insecurity. When you grow, you outgrow. When you radiate certainty, only those who can meet you in that frequency remain. And that is not loss, it is refinement. Radiating certainty is not about never feeling afraid. It's about acting from a place of inner truth, even when fear whispers in your ear. It's about standing firm in your decisions because they are rooted in your essence, not in the fluctuating opinions of others. It's about honoring your intuition, your insight, your vision, because you know that what has been revealed to you is yours to carry, whether or not anyone else sees it. The desire to be validated is deeply human, but the soul thrives not on applause, but on alignment, not on being seen, but on being sure. The moment you shift from asking others to tell you who you are, and instead decide for yourself, you take your power back. And that power is subtle but undeniable. It's the difference between the one who begs for the spotlight, between the one who waits to be invited, and the one who builds the stage. Certainty comes from deep trust, not in outcomes, but in identity. You trust that you were sent here with purpose. You trust that your path is unfolding, even if no one else understands it. You trust that the dreams planted in your heart were not random, but intentional. And because of that trust, you move with confidence. You stop asking, "Do you see me?" and start declaring, "I see me." And when you see yourself clearly, others will too. Not because you convinced them, but because your energy made it undeniable. This kind of energy doesn't hustle for attention, it attracts it. It doesn't fight to be heard, it speaks, and the world listens. Because the world is always looking for those who truly believe in themselves, not in a surface level way, but in a soul level way. And when you become that person, everything you are chasing starts chasing you. Because you're no longer trying to be chosen, you are living like you already are. You have stopped seeking and started being, and that changes everything. Reprogramming your inner conversations is the foundation upon which your entire life rests. The words you speak silently to yourself shape the identity you carry, the decisions you make, and the results you attract. These inner dialogues are not random. They are rehearsed, repeated, and deeply believed. And the tragedy for many is not the circumstance they live in, but the belief they continue to echo within their own minds. If you constantly tell yourself you are not enough, you will act from that space. If you continually whisper doubt to your own soul, then no amount of external encouragement will ever be enough to sustain confidence. To act as if you are already chosen, you must first change the way you speak to yourself when no one is listening. What runs through your mind in the quiet moments, when the applause has faded, when the door is closed, when the phone is silent, That is the true measure of your belief. Do you hear the voice of someone who is chosen? Or do you replay the soundtrack of rejection, shame, and unworthiness? The thoughts you entertain in your solitude are not harmless. They are creative. They mold the atmosphere of your life. They either expand you or shrink you, elevate you or diminish you. And every time you repeat a limiting belief in your mind, you renew its power. No one else hears these words, but the universe does. Your subconscious does. Your emotional body does. And most importantly, your reality responds to them. These internal affirmations, whether positive or destructive, become the lens through which you view the world. If your self-talk is steeped in fear, everything you touch will feel uncertain. If your inner narrative is laced with inadequacy, then even your victories will feel like accidents. But when you change the script within, everything outside begins to rearrange itself to match. This is not about empty affirmations or forced positivity. It is about choosing to speak truth into the soil of your spirit. It is about refusing to let your past or your pain write your present story. The voices that told you you were not enough were never your own. They were adopted, inherited, absorbed from people who did not know your worth. And now it is your responsibility to dismantle those voices one thought at a time. You must become the guardian of your mind, filtering every word that does not align with who you truly are. You must be ruthless with what you allow to repeat inside of you. Start noticing the patterns. Catch yourself in the act of self-betrayal. When you hear yourself thinking, "I can't do this," pause. Ask yourself, who told me that? When you think, "I'm not ready," challenge that belief by remembering how many times you've already survived what you once feared. When you say, "I'm not good enough," interrupt that thought with evidence of your growth, your strength, your spirit. This is how reprogramming begins, not with shouting affirmations into the void, but with the steady practice of conscious correction. You must speak to yourself as someone who has already been chosen, as someone who is already appointed, already anointed, already sent for a purpose. The more you repeat this truth, the more it settles into your being. And once it is settled, it will begin to show. People will not be able to explain it, but they will feel it. You will no longer walk in a room hoping to be accepted. You will walk in knowing you carry something sacred. Your energy will speak before your mouth does, because your inner voice has already done the work. But you must be consistent. You cannot expect to undo years of toxic inner dialogue with a few words spoken once. Repetition is the mother of belief. What you hear over and over, you begin to accept. So feed your mind daily with language that supports the truth of who you are. Speak to yourself with reverence, with compassion, with unwavering faith. Speak to your mind as if it were the garden of your future, because it is. And don't wait until everything looks perfect to begin. The world will reflect your new inner state, but not instantly. There may still be residue from the old beliefs. Don't be discouraged when your reality lags behind your new thinking. Keep going, keep repeating the truth, keep replacing the lie with the light. Over time, your inner dialogue will become a song of power, a rhythm that sustains you when things feel uncertain, a melody that reminds you of your divinity when life tries to shrink you again. Eventually, the lies lose their grip, the old voices fade, the fear gets quieter, and in its place, a new language emerges. One that is filled with purpose, one that speaks of being chosen, not forsaken, one that confirms what your spirit has known all along, that you were never unworthy, only unaware, that the voice of truth was always within you, waiting to be heard again. And once you hear it, you will never be the same. This is not magic, this is responsibility. You are the narrator of your own life. You decide what gets amplified and what gets silenced. Choose to amplify the truth. Choose to elevate the language of your spirit above the noise of your past. Let your thoughts become the bridge to a new way of being, and as you do, you will notice a shift, not just in your circumstances, but in your essence. You will begin to feel chosen. You will begin to act chosen. You will begin to speak from a place of unshakable knowing. And from that place, you will create a life that reflects exactly what you've decided to believe. To live from the end and not toward it is to take possession of the future you desire as if it is already yours. This is not about wishful thinking or blind optimism. It is about spiritual authority. It is about claiming in the stillness of your imagination what the outer world has yet to confirm. To live from the end is to close your eyes, enter the scene of your fulfilled desire, and dwell there, not as a visitor, but as its rightful occupant. You do not chase what you already possess. You do not beg for what you've already inherited. You live from it. You breathe it. You make decisions from that state of fulfillment, and slowly, surely, life bends to meet the image you have dared to hold within. There is a fundamental misunderstanding that keeps people from experiencing the life they long for. They believe that change must first occur in their environment, in their relationships, in their bank accounts, in their health. Only then, they think, will they feel the joy, the peace, the certainty they desire. But the truth is reversed. It is not the change that creates the feeling. It is the feeling that creates the change. The external is always late. The internal is where all power begins. If you live from the end, your mind becomes the womb of creation, and you no longer seek permission from the outer world to be who you were always meant to be. This kind of living requires discipline. It means choosing to feel abundance when lack surrounds you. It means smiling from within when no one understands your joy. It means holding conversations in your mind with people who haven't yet come into your life, but whose presence you already cherish. It means waking up every day and reaffirming that you are not on the journey to your dream, you are standing in it. You are not waiting, you are receiving. You are not striving, you are remembering. Remembering who you are. Remembering what you've been promised. Remembering that nothing real can be taken from you and nothing destined for you can pass you by. The imagination is not a place for escape. It is a place for alignment. When you enter your inner world and see yourself as healed, successful, loved, whole, you are not pretending. You are touching the most real part of your existence. The seen world is always catching up to what the unseen has already declared. And so you return to your imagination, not to fantasize, but to anchor, to plant your roots in the truth that cannot yet be seen, but is felt with unshakable certainty. From that place, you do not act as if it might happen. You act as if it already has. This is why the concept of living from the end is so powerful. You eliminate delay. You remove doubt. You silence the question of if, because you've already resolved it as when. And then, even when loses its urgency because you're no longer waiting, you're living. You've stepped into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and now every action, every thought, every decision flows from that higher place. You choose differently because you believe differently. You no longer entertain options that contradict the truth you've internalized. This is where so many fall short. They imagine for a few moments, then return to a life of doubt. They briefly entertain the idea of being chosen, then surrender again to the weight of old patterns and familiar pain. But to live from the end means to remain in that state even when nothing around you affirms it. You persist. You walk by faith, not by sight. You carry within you a confidence that is not rooted in evidence but in essence. And that essence, when honored, calls forth the evidence in its due time. There will be moments when your current reality tries to contradict the vision you hold. You might face resistance, silence, rejection, or delay. But these are not signs that you are wrong. They are simply the echoes of an old reality that has yet to dissolve. You do not fight these appearances. You do not argue with them. You simply return inward. You close your eyes again. You go back to the scene of the end. You walk through the rooms of your future as if you already lived there. You give thanks for what has not yet materialized because you know the unseen is the blueprint of the seen. And gratitude is the language of the fulfilled. From this posture, your actions become powerful. You do not act to make things happen, you act because things have happened. You are no longer applying force, you are expressing truth. You are no longer chasing your future, you are aligned with it. This is not about pretending, it is about knowing. Knowing that the version of you that already has the life you desire is not imaginary, it is accessible, it is within. And when you live from that place, the outer world becomes a canvas that mirrors your inner masterpiece. You must guard that inner state. You must protect it from doubt, fear, and the noise of lesser voices. You must nourish it with stillness, with vision, with sacred repetition. Because the more you dwell in the end, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, it is no longer a practice, it is a way of being. You do not have to force yourself to believe it. You are it. And from that being, everything flows. People will notice the shift. Opportunities will rise to meet you. Situations will align in ways you never could have planned, not because you manipulated the world, but because you mastered your inner one. This is the secret so few understand. The world is not moved by desperation. It is moved by embodiment. When you embody the end begins to unfold. You become the signal that summons the form. You become the frequency that life cannot ignore. And so you no longer ask, when will it come? Because the answer is always the same, it's already here. Not in the world, but in you. You live from that place. You breathe from that place. You rest in it, walk in it, speak from it, and in doing so, you become the evidence of what you once only imagined. To understand that being chosen requires preparation, not permission, is to awaken to the divine reality that you are not waiting for anyone to grant you a place in the world. You are not standing at the edge of life hoping to be noticed, to be picked, to be given access. You are not an outsider, you are not optional, you are not a backup plan. You are already chosen in the realm that matters most. And what remains now is not to ask for permission to step forward, but to prepare yourself in secret, in silence, in faith, for the unveiling that is already in motion. This world will have you believe that you must be endorsed by others before you can believe in yourself, that you must be validated by titles, positions, platforms, or applause. But that is a deception of the senses. It is the illusion that worth is granted externally when in truth it is realized internally. The true path of those who are chosen is not one of desperate seeking, it is one of intentional becoming. And that becoming takes place in the unseen spaces where no one is looking, when no one claps, and when nothing around you gives you the signal to rise. You rise anyway, not because someone told you to, but because something deeper within you whispered, it's time. Those who are truly chosen don't need to be told they are. They already know. And in that knowing, they begin to prepare. They train in solitude. They sharpen their vision when the world seems blurry. They strengthen their discipline when distractions offer them easier paths. They choose depth over speed, substance over show, process over praise. Because they understand a profound truth. You are not promoted when the world is ready for you. You are promoted when you are ready for the world. You don't grow into your destiny by accident. You grow into it by daily decisions. Decisions made in private that will one day be reflected in public. When you know you are chosen, you stop waiting to be picked. You stop shrinking yourself in rooms that cannot yet perceive your value. You stop apologizing for your dreams because they make others uncomfortable. Instead, you start preparing. You study, you pray, you refine, you meditate, you listen, you watch, you build within what the world has not yet seen without. You stretch into the version of yourself that can handle the weight of the calling you carry. You don't fear being overlooked because you understand when the preparation is complete, the opportunity appears. Not by force, not by manipulation, but by the law of alignment. So many people want the reward of being chosen without the discipline of being prepared. They want the platform without the process, the visibility without the substance, the results without the inner work. But this journey will never allow that, not because the universe is cruel, but because it is precise. It will not place you in a position you are not yet prepared to sustain. It loves you too much to let you rise too fast, too early. And so, when the delay comes, when the doors seem shut, when the silence feels endless, it is not rejection. It is a sacred invitation to go deeper, to become stronger, to get ready. Preparation is not glamorous. It is often lonely. It is often quiet. It is often misunderstood. While others are seen, you may be hidden. While others are applauded, you may be forgotten. But your soul knows the truth. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. You are not behind, you are being built. What the world sees as delay, God sees as design. And if you can learn to honor the preparation, to fall in love with the hidden seasons, to give your all when no one is watching, you will find yourself ready when the time comes. And when it comes, you won't have to chase it. You'll rise into it, fully formed, fully aligned, fully aware. Do not confuse invisibility with insignificance. Some of the most powerful transformations happen in darkness. The seed is buried before it blossoms. The child is formed in the womb before it breathes. The sculptor chips away in silence before the statue is revealed. Your preparation is not a waste of time. It is the birthplace of everything you've been shown in your spirit. And the more deeply you prepare, the more fully you will possess what is coming. Step into the world like you're already it. That's not advice, it is truth wrapped in a command. For the moment you assume the identity of the person you desire to become, the world around you has no choice but to mirror that assumption. You don't wait to be chosen. You don't sit quietly hoping for permission. You decide, and in that sacred decision, you give yourself the crown. The outer world is only a servant, obeying the posture of your inner world. Walk like the door is already open. Speak like the answer is already yes. Carry yourself like the promise is already fulfilled. You are not here to chase reality. You are here to create it. You are not here to react. You are here to command. And what you command, consciously or not, springs forth from what you believe to be true about yourself. So dare to believe that you are already what you long to be. Not becoming, not hoping, already it. The feeling of fulfillment must not be delayed until some visible confirmation appears. No, it must precede it. The feeling becomes the cause, the external merely echoes it. Every time you look into the mirror, don't see who you are, see who you've decided to be. Don't wait for someone else to recognize your worth before you recognize it. Don't wait to be celebrated before you carry yourself with the weight of glory. Do not look to your current circumstances to tell you what's possible. Circumstances are only the fruit of old assumptions. If you want new fruit, plant new thoughts, walk differently, think differently. Dwell in the end, not in the longing. Imagination is not a game, it is the gateway. When you imagine yourself as successful, loved, powerful, healed, you are not lying to yourself. You are waking up. You are aligning with the deeper truth. For everything you desire is already contained in the unseen, waiting for your recognition to give it permission to appear. You do not create by force, you create by assumption. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and stay loyal to that feeling, no matter what your senses scream. The world will attempt to distract you with evidence. Evidence of lack, evidence of failure, evidence of limitation. But do not bow to evidence. Evidence changes. Truth remains. And the truth is simple. You become what you accept as true for yourself. Accept only that which affirms your divine worth, your unstoppable power, your limitless capacity to live the life you were designed to imagine. There is no power outside of your own consciousness, no one to grant you permission, no event to unlock your destiny. All is within. The moment you shift within, the world begins to bend. The people change, the opportunities change, doors open where there were none before. But all of it traces back to one decision: to walk into the world as if you were already the success, as if you were already the one, as if the world already belonged to you, not from arrogance, but from inner knowing. Every step you take in this new awareness becomes sacred. You are not pretending, you are embodying. You are living the role before the script has caught up. But it will catch up, it must. Life cannot deny the one who shows up with faith in their own imagination. Life responds to those who live in the invisible realm and dare to claim it is more real than the seen. So walk in the fullness of your chosen identity. Speak from the end. Think from the place where it's already done. You're not trying to make it happen. You're aligning with the version of yourself where it already has, and the world will rise to meet you there. To live from the end is to dwell in the certainty of your desire fulfilled, long before the world offers you any visible proof. It is to choose a state of being so anchored in the reality you have inwardly accepted that outer appearances lose their power to disturb or discourage you. The mistake most people make is living toward the thing they want. They imagine the future as something separate, far off, requiring effort, time, and the approval of the world to access. But the secret is this: nothing is truly far if you claim it within. The only distance between you and your desire is the belief that you don't already possess it. Remove that illusion and the fulfillment becomes instant within consciousness, which is the only place it truly matters. To live from the end is not to hope or to wish or to wait, it is to be. You step into the role of the person who already has the thing, already is the thing, already knows the outcome. The world may contradict it, the facts may resist it, but truth is not built from facts. It is built from inner certainty. And that certainty is your seed. The soil of reality has no choice but to give back to you what you have planted within. You are not here to be a spectator of life. You are here to be the author. And every author writes from the ending first. Knowing how it ends changes how the story unfolds. When you live from the end, you stop asking if something will happen. You stop wondering when it will arrive. You let go of questions that imply distance. You act, speak, and think as though it is already so, not to deceive yourself, but because your inner world has already claimed it. The outer must follow the inner. It is law, not man's law, but divine law, the law of consciousness, the law that says every state you inhabit inwardly must find its expression outwardly in time. The delay is not punishment. The delay is only preparation. It is the echo catching up with the sound. But the sound, you must remain firm. And what does it look like to live from the end? It means to wake up each morning not needing proof, because the proof is already alive in your feeling. It means to no longer pray with desperation, but to pray with gratitude, as though your soul already holds the thing you once begged for. It means you stop rehearsing your pain and start rehearsing your power. You do not beg reality to change, you assume that it has, and you live accordingly. There is an intelligence behind all creation that responds to the language of belief. And belief is not the words you say, it is the state you live from. If you say, I am successful, but inwardly feel lack and unworthiness, then the world mirrors your feeling, not your words. The secret is alignment, not of speech alone, but of identity. To live from the end is to fuse your present being with the future you long for. You don't wait to be rich to feel abundant. You feel abundant and the richness comes. You don't wait to be loved to feel worthy. You feel worthy and the love flows in. You don't wait for healing to feel whole. You feel wholeness and the healing must obey. Every day the choice is offered to you again. Will you live from what you see or from what you know? Because what you know within has far greater power than what your senses present. Your senses are often late to the truth. They lag behind your convictions. You cannot wait for them to agree before you believe. You believe and then they will catch up. That is why the dreamer, the one who dares to feel the end, is the true realist, because he knows that reality is molded by unseen things, by thought, by emotion, by imagination, by faith. The outer world is but a canvas waiting to reflect the inner world's portrait. Most people suffer not because life is cruel, but because they are trapped in the wrong assumption. They assume the problem is stronger than the solution. They assume the absence is more real than the presence. They assume that who they are now is permanent, but nothing is permanent except the truth you declare as permanent. That is the gift and the responsibility. If you want to change your life, you must first change your dwelling place within. And the only place worth living in is the end, the fulfilled, the complete, the realized state. You must feel it deeply. You must taste the victory before the battle is over. You must hear the applause before the performance begins. You must see the door open, even when it still looks closed. Living from the end is not about pretending. It is about embodying. It is about the quiet confidence of a soul that no longer needs to push because it already possesses. And the more you dwell in that state, the more the world bends, shifts, rearranges itself, not because you forced it, but because you became unshakable in what you accepted. Let others be logical. Let others count the odds, analyze the risks, track the steps. You instead dwell in the end. You become the evidence. You walk ahead of proof. You live in the knowing. And from that knowing, miracles are born, not because the universe changes, but because you did. And once you change your posture, once you stand in the end and say, this is who I am now, the world responds like a mirror aligning to its reflection. Imagination is not a child's escape. It is the workshop of creation. Everything that now exists was first imagined. The buildings that pierce the sky, the songs that stir hearts, the bridges that connect continents, all of them began as invisible pictures within someone's mind. To see with the eyes is one thing, But to see with the inner vision is to access the blueprint of all reality. Imagination is not fantasy. It is reality in motion, vibrating just beyond the reach of the senses, waiting to descend into form through sustained belief. The world around you is nothing more than a reflection of the world within you. And if you want to change the outer picture, you must first paint a new one inside. So many wait for life to give them permission. They wait for science. They wait for the world to validate their dreams. But the truth is far more powerful. The world waits on you. It waits on the image you hold. It waits on the movie you play on repeat within your consciousness. You are not a passive observer of life. You are the director, the screenwriter, the actor, and the stage all in one. And what you repeatedly imagine with feeling becomes your lived experience. This is not a poetic idea. It is the way life has always worked. Your dominant imagination forms your dominant reality. When you begin to understand the sacred power of imagination, you stop using it recklessly. You stop imagining worst-case scenarios. You stop rehearsing pain and betrayal and rejection, because you know now those scenes are not harmless, they are seeds. And seeds grow. Every time you replay the betrayal, you deepen the wound. Every time you visualize failure, you are building the architecture for it to appear. But the moment you interrupt that cycle and begin to imagine what you desire with clarity and emotion, you open a portal for it to enter your life. Do not confuse imagination with idle daydreaming. Daydreams drift, but true imagination is focused feeling. It is intentional, it is precise, it is not about merely picturing something. It is about dwelling in it so completely that you can smell the air, feel the textures, hear the sounds, and taste the result. Imagination, when fused with faith, becomes the bridge between the unseen and the seen. It is not wishful thinking, it is causative thinking. The world calls it coincidence, the awakened soul calls it law. The senses will always report to you what was. They show you the aftermath of past imaginal acts. So, do not be discouraged by what you currently see. What matters is what you are imagining now. That is your true life. You are never stuck in reality. You are only stuck in thought. And thought is flexible. Imagination, even more so. You can close your eyes and live anywhere. You can be anyone. You can possess anything. And if you remain in that inner world long enough, the outer world will rearrange itself to match. This is the secret the world overlooks. This is the power no one teaches you to respect. You become what you continually accept and imagine as true. Imagination does not require effort. It requires alignment. It asks that you suspend disbelief long enough to feel something new. To accept a vision, not because you have seen it with your eyes, but because you have accepted it with your heart. And once it is accepted emotionally, it becomes inevitable. You can't stop what has been truly imagined with belief. The world will conspire to reflect it, even through strange, unpredictable paths. It is not your job to know how. It is only your job to remain faithful to the image. Let the image do the work. Let the feeling create the bridge. Most people misuse their imagination without knowing it. They dwell on the things they fear. They replay the scenes that broke them. They reinforce lack by picturing what they don't have, and then they wonder why nothing changes. But change is not found by analyzing the past. It is found by building a new future in the present moment. You must turn your attention inward and ask, what am I imagining daily? What am I feeling to be true? That question reveals everything. Your imagination is a mirror. It will never reflect anything but what you feed it. Feed it fear, and fear will find you. Feed it joy, and joy must return. Feed it love, and love will blossom It cannot return void. Imagination must become your sanctuary, the place where you go, not to escape, but to command, not to flee life, but to build it. Every night before sleep, you are given a chance to reshape your entire reality. What images do you take into sleep with you? What feelings do you fall asleep in? That state carries you into deeper dimensions of consciousness, where seeds are planted. Sleep in fear, and fear will grow. Sleep in faith, and miracles will find you. Use your imagination wisely, not once, but continually. Not when convenient, but as a way of life. The inner vision must become more real than the outer noise. The noise will try to distract you. It will shout statistics, remind you of your failures, show you empty bank accounts, or echo the insults of others. But you must turn your gaze inward and say, "This is the truth I choose." And in your imagination, see yourself victorious, loved, healed, whole, powerful, not just once, but as a new dwelling place. That is the true home. The world outside is only ever a projection of the home you have built within. Imagination holds no limits except the ones you place upon it. It is not bound by your background, your education, your age, or your circumstances. It answers only to your willingness to believe, and belief is simply imagination sustained. You are never at the mercy of life. You are always in conversation with it, through the images you accept and the emotions you allow. So speak to life boldly, paint your world vividly, and do not step out of your imagined scene until the world joins you there. For it surely will. It cannot do otherwise. The world you see is not fixed. It bends, shifts, and reshapes itself around the assumptions you hold within. Assumption is not a weak wish, nor is it idle hope. It is a decision made in silence, a contract written in spirit. You assume a thing to be true, and in that assumption you make it real. Not because the world agrees with you first, but because you choose to agree with a truth that is not yet visible. This is the unseen mechanism that governs all outcomes. It is not your effort that changes things. It is not your struggle or your pleading. It is your assumption. What you assume to be true about yourself, about others, about the world, that becomes your experience. Most people live as if circumstances hold the final word. They treat their environment as a dictator rather than a reflection. They see lack and assume it is permanent. They experience rejection and assume they are unworthy. They face difficulty and assume the odds are stacked against them. But these assumptions are not facts. They are choices, and they form a cycle. What you assume, you feel. What you feel, you attract. What you attract, you experience. And then that experience reinforces your assumption, unless you consciously break the loop. To live consciously is to recognize the power of your assumptions and to no longer give that power away to appearances. Circumstances are echoes, not causes. They are the shadow cast by your previous thoughts, your previous feelings, your previous assumptions. If you want new shadows, you must change the light within. Your current reality is not a verdict, it is a mirror. If it displeases you, do not argue with the mirror. Change the image you hold of yourself. Change the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you assume others see you. Do not wait for life to approve of you before you approve of yourself. That approval, when claimed first, becomes the invitation for life to reflect it. There is no truth more liberating than this. Your assumption overrides circumstance. The world cannot give you what you refuse to claim within. You may say, "But I have nothing." Then you must assume abundance before the outer can provide it. You may say, "But I am broken." Then you must assume wholeness even while the evidence is still loud with pain. The assumption is not about ignoring reality. It is about creating a new one. And you do not create new realities by bowing to old ones. Every time you assume something new, something bold, something greater than what your senses tell you, you are interrupting the old cycle. You are writing a new chapter. You are planting new seeds. And though the fruit may not appear overnight, it is already on its way the moment you persist in your new assumption. Do not be discouraged if the world does not immediately reflect the change. The outer world has inertia. It takes time to catch up with the inner, but it will catch up because it has no power to resist. Assumptions are felt truths. They live in your body, in your posture, in your tone of voice, in your inner conversations. You may not even be aware of some of them, but they shape you daily. If you assume you are unwanted, you will interpret every silence as rejection. If you assume life is hard, you will find difficulty in every corner. If you assume that things never work out for you, even your blessings will appear burdensome. But if you shift the assumption, the entire scene changes. You may be in the same job, same home, same body, but the energy you bring is different, and soon everything responds to that difference. What's most incredible is that assumption does not need evidence to begin working. In fact, it creates the evidence. You begin with nothing but the feeling of I am, and the world must show you what you have claimed. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is not pretending, it is pre-living. You are not lying to yourself by saying I am worthy, even when you feel unworthy. You are simply declaring a higher truth that life is waiting for you to believe. You must speak from the place you want to arrive, not about it from a distance. There will be resistance. Your old thoughts will fight you. The world will throw you reminders of who you used to be. But you must stand firm in the new assumption like a tree planted in truth. You must return to it again and again until it becomes natural. And when it does, when you no longer question your new identity, life will follow your lead. You will find people treating you differently. You will see opportunities appear where there were once none. You will realize that life didn't need to change. You just needed to change your inner agreement. The power of assumption is not just in thought, it is in embodiment. To assume is to become. Not someday, not when things are easier. Now, you don't wait to see the outcome before you step into the identity. You step in now, fully, and trust that the world will adjust. That trust is not foolish. It is the deepest wisdom. For the world cannot help but obey the instruction it receives from your consistent inner state. You must ask yourself daily, what am I assuming right now? Not what you hope, not what you want, but what are you actually assuming to be true about yourself, about your future, about life itself? That assumption is your path. Change the assumption, and the destination must also change. You are not walking in circles. You are walking the path your inner world lays out for you. Choose to lay out a new one built on power, not pity, one built on truth, not trauma, one built on the vision of who you are becoming rather than the memory of who you've been. You owe it to yourself to assume boldly. Assume with courage, assume the best about yourself, even if no one else does, especially if no one else does. Because the world has no choice but to treat you according to how you treat yourself. That is the secret few dare to test. But the moment you do, everything changes. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you finally became the authority of your own experience. Consciousness is the only creative power in the universe. Everything that exists begins within it, is shaped by it, and is sustained through it. When you finally realize that your consciousness is the source, not your effort, not other people, not the economy, not your past, You stop chasing things outside yourself and start claiming dominion within. The world you live in, the people you meet, the results you experience are all expressions of what you have accepted as true in your own consciousness. You are not here to be shaped by life, you are here to shape it. And that shaping happens not with force, but with awareness. Most people believe they are victims of life's randomness. They look at their struggles and see only the external causes. They say, if only I had more time, more money, better health, more support. They wait for life to give them something before they feel empowered to move. But this delay is unnecessary, because everything you seek outside of you already exists in the invisible substance of consciousness. What you truly believe, what you inwardly accept as your reality, will express itself in the visible world. It must. There is no separation between inner state and outer condition. They are not just connected, they are one. When you understand that consciousness is creative, you begin to take responsibility for every belief you hold. You stop blaming others. You stop waiting for circumstances to change. You look inward and ask, what must I believe about myself for this situation to continue? That question is the doorway to transformation. Because once you locate the belief, you can change it. And once you change the belief, reality has no choice but to follow. Consciousness is not passive. It is not something that merely reacts to what the senses present. It is causative. The outer world is its servant, not its master. Your job is not to fight with appearances, but to create new ones by shifting the content of your inner world. Think of your consciousness like fertile soil. Whatever you plant, whether it be faith or fear, hope or despair, will take root and grow, and the world will feed you the fruit of that planting. So plant deliberately. Plant wisely. Plant as someone who knows their thoughts carry divine power. You do not need to understand how it will happen. You don't need to work out the mechanics. You only need to dwell in the feeling of what you desire as already true. Because the feeling is the signal. It is the acceptance. When you live in the feeling of abundance, you are saying to consciousness, this is who I am. And consciousness says yes. When you live in the feeling of love, you are not begging for someone to come. You are recognizing that love is already yours. And in time, the outer world will reflect that truth. There is no power outside your own awareness. You may give your power away to other people, to circumstances, to memories, but it was always yours. And when you take it back, everything shifts. You walk into rooms differently. You stop asking for permission. You no longer need validation because you have validated yourself within. That inner authority becomes a magnet for transformation. Life rearranges itself around the clarity of your consciousness. And the more clearly you see yourself, the more the world mirrors that vision. Everything begins with I am. That is the sacred foundation of all creation. Whatever you place after I am becomes your identity, and your identity becomes your experience. Say, I am broke, and your world confirms it. Say, I am strong, and life begins to give you strength. Say, I am forgotten, and even kindness hides from you. But say, I am chosen, and the doors you never saw before will open wide. It is not magic, it is law. The law of consciousness responds not to what you want, but to what you are in your own mind. The moment you shift your identity, the world responds. Most people are unconscious creators. They let the past write their assumptions. They let pain write their definitions. They let fear dictate their self-vision. But none of that is permanent unless you say so. You can wake up now and choose to create consciously, You can reimagine your entire life, not by changing others, but by changing how you see yourself. You can declare, I am no longer who I was. I choose to be this now. And when that declaration becomes a feeling, and that feeling becomes a state, and that state becomes your home, then nothing in the world can stop what is coming. Consciousness does not discriminate. It gives to everyone according to their assumption. You are not favored by luck or cursed by fate. You are guided by what you consistently accept as true. If you want to change the direction of your life, you must first change the direction of your awareness. Where is your attention resting? What story are you repeating? What inner conversations are shaping your reality? These are not small questions. They are the most important questions you will ever ask, because they reveal the future that is already forming. You don't need evidence to believe. You need belief to generate evidence. This is the reversal that changes everything. Don't wait for the world to agree with you. Speak the new truth anyway. Think the new thought anyway. Feel the new emotion anyway. This is how you begin to bend the world with your being. You hold the vision, not because you see it, but because you know it is real in the unseen. And that knowing becomes your strength. That knowing becomes your compass. That knowing becomes your new reality. And the old one must fall away. So few realize how much power they already carry. They think they need more education, more time, more resources. But all they really need is a shift in consciousness. Once you change what you believe to be true about yourself, everything else aligns. Doors open, people appear, opportunities multiply, and you look back not in disbelief but in gratitude, because deep down you knew all along it was never the world that needed to change, it was you. Embodiment is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the spiritual and the physical, the imagined and the lived. To embody something is to become it in the now, not later. It means you no longer think of yourself as someone trying to get there. You are already there, in feeling, in awareness, in identity. And that shift, that quiet yet profound inner transformation, is what pulls the unseen into visibility. You don't beg for your desires to come true. You don't chase them as if they are separate from you. You inhabit them. You make space for them inside your consciousness. And as you embody that new state of being, life bends to reflect it. To understand embodiment is to understand that life is not responding to your wishes. It's responding to your identity. You can dream of abundance and still live as someone who expects lack. You can speak of love and still move through the world as someone unloved. The outer reality does not answer to your words alone. It answers to the way you carry yourself, the energy you embody, the assumptions you cling to when no one is watching. Embodiment is not surface level. It is not acting for show. It is a deep internal knowing that permeates every thought, every breath, every decision. This is why change never truly happens on the outside first. Change begins in how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself, how you define yourself in private. If you believe that you are still lacking, still broken, still small, then even the most beautiful opportunities will slip through your fingers because you will not feel worthy of them. But if you shift your self-concept, if you begin to move and think and exist as someone who already possesses the thing they once hoped for, then your entire world changes. Not by force, but by reflection. Most people are waiting. Waiting for the money to come before they feel rich. Waiting for the relationship to begin before they feel lovable. Waiting for the healing to appear before they feel whole. But waiting delays the manifestation. Embodiment calls it forward. When you become the person who already has it in spirit, then life must echo your vibration. The mirror does not smile first, You must. And the reflection will follow. So ask yourself, who would I be if I already had it? How would I speak, walk, think, feel if it was already mine? Then be that. Be that before you see it. Be that in secret. Be that in faith. And what you were being in the dark will come to light. The process is simple yet powerful. You stop looking at your life to define you. You start defining your life by the way you see yourself. You are not just imagining anymore. You are becoming. You're no longer trying to convince yourself. You have already been convinced. And that quiet inner conviction becomes magnetic. You begin to move differently, not with arrogance, but with certainty, not with need, but with presence. And that shift in energy opens doors that once seemed locked. It attracts people who match your new self. It moves mountains without effort, because it is not coming from struggle, it is coming from alignment. There is a level of peace that comes with embodiment, a peace that no longer needs constant reassurance. When you truly embody your desire, you stop checking the world to see if it's working. You stop begging for signs. You stop doubting the process. You just live it. You enjoy the feeling of it now, not because the outer has changed, but because your inner world is full. And that fullness is the seed of manifestation. Desperation blocks, embodiment unlocks. You are not reaching out, you are drawing in. You are not trying, you are attracting. To embody something is to be unapologetic about it. You don't shrink yourself to match what others expect. You don't delay your power out of fear of appearing arrogant. You live as if it's done, because within you it is. Embodiment is bold, not because it is loud, but because it refuses to bow to doubt. It's the calm confidence of someone who has already seen the finish line, even if they're still walking the path. It's the quiet power of someone who knows they're worthy, even if no one else sees it yet. There is also a sacred trust involved. Trust that you don't need to control everything. Trust that you don't need to manipulate outcomes. When you embody your end, you surrender the how and fall in love with the being. You release the timeline and you embrace the identity. And from that space, you become a magnet for the very things you once believed were distant. They're not distant anymore. They're being pulled toward you, not because you're asking loudly, but because you're finally aligned with them. It is not what you do occasionally that changes your life. It's what you embody daily. Embodiment doesn't switch off when you feel discouraged. In fact, that's when it's most powerful. When life seems to contradict your desire, that is your invitation to remain loyal to your new self. That's where real transformation happens. Not in the easy moments, but in the hard ones. When you choose to hold your inner state despite outer chaos. When you continue to act from your future rather than react to your past. That is the test. And that is the moment where the unseen becomes real. Embodiment is not pretending. It's not faking. It's becoming. And becoming is a process of merging your imagination with your identity until there is no longer a gap between who you are and who you dreamed of being. It is the collapse of desire into being, the disappearance of striving into stillness, the shift from hoping into knowing. When you embody, you no longer ask if you'll receive it. You know that you're the one who already holds it within. This is how manifestation becomes natural. Not forced, not strained, but effortless. You are no longer trying to get something. You are revealing who you already are. You're not chasing the dream. You are awakening it from within. And when your internal world becomes saturated with the feeling of already having it, the external world must bow. Not out of obligation, but out of resonance. You didn't fight it into existence, you simply matched it. And once you match it, you live it. Once you live it, the rest is inevitable. Because the world cannot deny the one who embodies the truth before it's seen. It's time to quiet the doubt, silence the noise, and stand boldly in the truth of your imagination. Not someday, not when the stars align or the world approves, but now, this moment, because the universe is already moving. The delay, the fear, the hesitation, they belong to a version of you that no longer needs to exist. Step out of that shadow. The life you want is not far off in a distant dream. It is already yours in the unseen. You must act as if it has arrived. Not because you are pretending, but because creation is finished and you are merely stepping into alignment with what already exists. You do not wish something into being by longing for it. You bring it forth by assuming it is already yours. To the world, this may look like delusion, but you are not living by the facts. You're living by the truth. And the truth is this: imagination is the gateway to manifestation. The moment you accept your desire as a present reality within you, the outer world begins to rearrange itself to reflect that inner knowing. You are not waiting for the universe to deliver something. You are walking in the awareness that it already has. The people who seem to possess an unshakable confidence in life, who move as if the world conspires in their favor, they're not lucky, they're aligned. They've accepted that their desires are not accidents. They understand the power of acting from the end. And when you do the same, when you begin to speak, move, and think as one who has already received what they have asked for, you shift timeline. You collapse the distance between where you are and where you desire to be. You were never meant to chase, you were meant to attract. You were never meant to beg, you were meant to declare. The energy of lack repels, but the energy of fulfillment, of inner certainty, draws all things to itself. If you want love, you must become the feeling of being loved. If you want abundance, you must dwell in the consciousness of abundance, not later. Now. There is no other time. The universe does not operate by the clock. It responds to the state you occupy. To act as if means to live as though the prayer has already been answered. It's in your tone of voice, your posture, your choices. It's in the way you stop questioning if it's coming and start preparing for its arrival. You don't ask, will it happen? You affirm, it already is. You feel the weight of the key in your hand before the door appears. You breathe in the joy of the result before the conditions change. This is not fantasy. It is spiritual law. The world is a mirror, and it reflects not what you want, but who you are being. So who are you being today? A person waiting to see results before believing? Or a creator who knows the results must appear because the belief is already alive? When you embody the latter, the world bows, circumstances bend, people shift, delays dissolve. Why? Because you are not rehearsing a possibility, you are expressing a reality, one that exists in you. And because it exists in you, must eventually be seen around you. Everything in your external world is the echo of an internal assumption. So change the assumption. Dare to assume that life is not against you, but for you. That the universe is not silent, but responsive. That your desires are not random, but revelations. And walk as one who knows, not hopes, not tries, knows. This is the posture of power. This is the energy that moves mountains. And this is the time, now, not tomorrow, not when you're more qualified, not when things are easier. Now is the only moment that matters. Act as if, and the universe will rise to meet you. Creation is already finished. This is not a metaphor or a poetic abstraction. It is a fundamental truth you must absorb if you are to unlock the life you desire. Nothing is being created anew when you desire it. It already exists in the eternal realm of imagination. The universe is not scrambling to put together the pieces of your wish. It is not building your success from scratch or assembling your happiness on some invisible production line. What you desire is already complete, waiting not to be made but to be received. Received by the one who dares to claim it with conviction, to live as though it were already part of their experience. You are not a passive receiver of blessings. You are an active participant in the revealing of what is already yours. The moment you conceive of a desire, it is done. The only remaining task is to align yourself with it. The world teaches us to strive, to chase, to earn, to prove. But the truth is much simpler and far more powerful. You are not required to work for your desires in the way the world defines work. You are only required to embody the version of yourself for whom that desire is natural, expected, even inevitable. This is alignment. You do not move toward your desire. You move into the state of already having it. There is a version of you, right now, in the vast field of possibility, who already has what you seek. That version is not a distant dream. It is a present reality in another layer of consciousness. When you imagine with feeling, when you live in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, you shift into that version. This is not fantasy or delusion. It is the mechanism by which reality is reshaped. You are stepping into a timeline that already exists. You are aligning your outer experience with your inner truth. What is that truth? That your desires are not whims. They are not idle wishes or fleeting thoughts. They are signals, divine instructions from the unseen part of you, the part that knows what's already yours. The desire itself is proof of existence. You do not long for what does not exist. You long for what is waiting to be recognized. You cannot feel what is not possible for you. The very ache, the yearning you feel is the echo of something real, and that something is already complete. You must understand this. The process of manifestation is not one of creation, but of recognition. You are not building a house brick by brick with your thoughts. You are uncovering a structure that was already there, hidden behind the veil of disbelief. To recognize is to bring into the light what was always present. It is to tune into a frequency that has always been broadcasting, even when you were not listening. When you begin to think, speak, and act in harmony with the belief that what you desire has already been delivered, you collapse the illusion of time and distance. Time, as we understand it, is the great deceiver. It suggests that what we want is far away, that we must wait and struggle and sacrifice to reach it. But that is not the nature of the universe. Time only exists in the physical realm, not in the realm of imagination. In the inner world, everything is now. Everything exists simultaneously. The moment you imagine something with feeling, you bring it into your now, and your now is the only place where power exists. You must stop measuring your progress by what you can see with your physical eyes. The senses deceive. They report the past. They echo what has already been assumed. Your job is not to react to what is, but to respond to what you know to be true within. The world outside is slow to catch up, but it always does. It cannot help but reflect your inner world. It must mirror your conviction. That is the law. That is how the universe operates. Think of the seed planted in the earth. You cannot see the roots as they grow. You cannot measure the depth of the work happening beneath the surface. But that does not mean it is not happening. It is already becoming. And so it is with your desires. The moment you plant them with belief, real belief, not wishful thinking, the roots begin to spread, and long before the flower appears above the surface, its reality is already certain. The only thing that delays your desires is your unwillingness to believe they are already yours. Your questioning, your doubting, your waiting. All of it builds resistance. It keeps you tethered to a version of reality that no longer serves you. You think you are being realistic, but you are simply reinforcing the past. The world will only give you what you're brave enough to claim. So claim it. Speak as though it's done. Walk as though it's yours. Let your energy announce it long before the evidence arrives. You do not need to understand how it will come. That is not your role. The how belongs to a higher intelligence. Your role is to dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to hold fast to the end you desire, and let life arrange the means. When you do this, you move with grace. You stop pushing. You start attracting. You step into a stream that is already flowing in your favor, and the world begins to reflect your knowing, not your hoping. The universe responds to identity. Not effort, not need, not desperation. Identity. Who are you being? Are you the one who has or the one who lacks? Are you the one who trusts or the one who doubts? The one who acts as if or the one who waits for proof? These questions shape your reality more than any action ever will, because all action flows from identity. When you shift who you believe you are, you shift what becomes possible for you. Creation is already finished. You are not here to make something happen. You are here to remember that it already has. Every desire fulfilled, every dream complete, every possibility alive, it is waiting for your recognition, waiting for you to step into the state where it is natural and expected. That is the secret. That is the power. And once you claim it, nothing can keep it from you. Not time, not doubt, not circumstance. Because you are no longer seeking, you are becoming. And what you become, the world must reflect. Your inner state determines your outer reality. This is the single most misunderstood truth in the world, yet it is the foundation of all creation. People believe that the world around them is a fixed entity, unchangeable until external events shift or luck intervenes. They wait for new circumstances to feel better, wait for more money to feel secure, wait for love to feel whole. But in truth, everything they seek to change outside must first be transformed inside. The world is not happening to you, it is responding to you. It mirrors not your actions, but your assumptions. It reflects not your words, but your state of being. The moment you change your inner world, your outer world begins to reshape itself in quiet obedience. You don't need to scream at life or wrestle with the details. You simply need to become a different version of yourself. That means stepping into the emotional and mental atmosphere of the person who already has what you desire. You do not get rich to feel abundant. You feel abundant, and then the wealth shows up. You do not fall in love to feel worthy. You feel worthy, and then love arrives. Every condition in your life is the echo of your inner climate. If there is lack, it is because you dwell in the consciousness of lack. If there is confusion, it is because you rest in a state of uncertainty. But if there is peace, it is because you have become peaceful. If there is prosperity, it is because you walk in the awareness of prosperity. You are not the victim of the world. You are the creator of it. You cannot fake your inner state. You can dress the part, speak the affirmations, repeat the right words, but the universe does not respond to performance. It responds to essence. It listens to who you are being at the core of your identity. If deep down you still believe you are not enough, no amount of surface level effort will override that signal. Life will mirror your doubt. It will give you more reasons to question yourself. But the moment you shift that belief, when you truly accept that you are worthy, valuable, and supported, everything changes. You begin to experience opportunities that match that worth. You begin to attract people who reflect that value. The world conforms to your internal transformation. This is why two people can walk into the same room and have entirely different experiences. One finds rejection, the other acceptance. One sees opportunity, the other sees obstacles. The difference is not in the room, it is in the perceiver. What you see depends on where you stand internally. Your perception is colored by your assumptions, and your assumptions are shaped by your state. If you live in the state of fear, you will see threat. If you live in the state of trust, you will see grace. The world is neutral until you define it, and you define it by the lens you carry within. The truth is, you are always creating, whether consciously or unconsciously. You do not get to turn this law off. The only choice you have is whether to use it intentionally or by default. Most people live in cycles because they keep thinking from the same emotional state. They hope for new outcomes while carrying the same inner identity. They want different results while embodying the same vibrations. It's like trying to tune into a radio station while refusing to adjust the dial. The frequency determines what you receive. Your inner state is the dial. You must shift it if you want a new song to play. You might say, but how do I change my inner state when everything around me contradicts it? That is the test. That is the transformation. To hold a new state while the outer world still echoes the old is the highest form of power. It's easy to feel abundant when the money is flowing. It's easy to feel loved when someone is pouring affection over you. But can you feel those things when nothing outside supports it? Can you become the cause instead of the effect? That is the key. And when you do, you become the master of your reality. The world is not personal. It is obedient. It is impersonal in the most miraculous way. It does not reward the loudest voice or the hardest worker. It rewards the most aligned soul. And alignment begins within. If you want to change your life, don't start by trying to fix the outer pieces. Start by changing the inner picture. Ask yourself, who would I be if my desire were already fulfilled? How would I walk? How would I speak? What would I believe about myself? Then become that person, not later, but now. And the world will catch up because it must. There is no need to force anything into place. When your state is true, your reality cannot resist. The energy of your being is like a magnet. It pulls in people, circumstances, and events that match its frequency. You don't need to chase. You need to align. Alignment is not about doing more. It's about becoming more of who you already are in your imagination. When you live from a state of fulfillment, life bends to support you. The universe does not resist truth. It multiplies it. Even when life seems slow to change, do not waver. The physical world has inertia, but it is not immune to new energy. Keep your inner state stable, and the outer conditions will eventually yield. Too often people shift their state briefly, then retreat into doubt when they don't see instant change. That impatience creates confusion, but when you stay faithful to your new state, when you become unwavering in the feeling of what you desire being real, life has no choice. It will conform. It always does. So, you must understand that you are not just a mind in a body. You are consciousness itself. Your inner state is not just an emotional mood. It is your signal to the cosmos. It tells the universe who you are and what belongs to you. And the universe responds with precision. It delivers not what you ask for with words, but what you broadcast through your being. This is why it is said, to him who has, more shall be given. It is not unfairness, it is law. If you embody the state of having, life multiplies that. If you embody the state of lack, life repeats that. What you carry inside determines what you hold in your hands. This is not punishment or reward, it is reflection. Life is always showing you yourself. If you want a different reflection, do not strike the mirror. Adjust the face you're showing to it. Be calm in the waiting. Be steady in the unseen. Be bold in your knowing. And above all, be faithful in your inner state. Because the truth is, everything you want is already yours. It is only waiting for you to remember that it is so. And when you do, the world will rush to meet you in the image of your belief. Live from the end, not toward it. That is the essential shift required to turn your life from a cycle of waiting into a reality of fulfillment. Most people spend their days moving toward their goals, step by careful step, always placing the object of their desire just out of reach. Tomorrow, next month, next year. But the universe does not operate on linear time the way your mind has been trained to believe. To the deeper reality of creation, the end already exists. It is your refusal to occupy it now that creates the illusion of delay. You must stop chasing your desire and instead assume its reality so completely that the world has no option but to mirror your belief. You were taught to strive, to work hard, to sacrifice until one day you could possibly reach the life you dream of. But striving is the language of separation. It tells the universe you are not yet that person. It affirms the distance between where you are and where you want to be. It is the mindset of becoming rather than being. And as long as you are becoming, you are not yet embodying. You are projecting your desires into the future rather than claiming them in the present. To live from the end is to collapse that distance. It is to shift from hoping to knowing, from seeking to dwelling. Imagine you have already received what you want. How would you feel? How would you move through the world? What kind of decisions would you make if you were already the person who had the success, the relationship, the freedom, the abundance you long for? Most people wait for their circumstances to justify those feelings, but this is an inversion of spiritual truth. The outer world is a shadow. It only reflects. It cannot originate. All causation begins within. You must embody the state of the wish fulfilled if you want the world to reflect its evidence. When you live from the end, you are not pretending, you are aligning. Pretending implies a lack of faith, a mask that covers the truth. But alignment is deeper. It is a surrender to the unseen reality that exists beyond your senses. It is the recognition that if you can feel it, if you can see it in the mind's eye and believe it with your heart, then it must already exist in some form. Living from the end is not about forcing yourself to smile or acting out of fantasy. It is about entering into a new identity, an inner atmosphere where your desire feels natural, familiar, and inevitable. This new identity is not a temporary role you play. It is your true self uncovered. You are not becoming someone else. You are remembering who you were before doubt and fear took hold. The end you seek is not out there in the future. It is within you now, waiting to be lived. And once you begin to dwell in that state, everything around you will begin to change. You will notice different opportunities, meet different people, respond with different energy. Life becomes a mirror of your internal shift. The power of this truth lies in its simplicity. You do not need to know how your desire will unfold. The mind always wants a roadmap, a guarantee, a plan that makes sense to the rational brain. But creation does not require logic. It requires faith. When you live from the end, you surrender the need to control the how. You trust that the universe is infinitely more capable of arranging the details than your limited mind could ever be. Your role is not to manipulate but to embody. The bridge of incidents will appear naturally, leading you step by step without resistance. All you must do is remain faithful to the feeling of the end. Faith is not passive. It is an active state of being. It requires mental discipline, emotional resilience, and spiritual clarity. There will be moments when your senses scream the opposite of what you desire. Your bank account will look the same. Your relationships may feel strained. Your surroundings might resist your new assumption. But these are echoes of the old state, not proof of failure. Do not be deceived. The physical world is slow to catch up. but it cannot resist a persistent inner reality. Hold firm, stay grounded in the end. Speak, think, and act from the truth that it is already done. This shift changes everything. When you live toward the end, you hesitate, you question, you wait. You ask, when will it happen and what if it never does? But when you live from the end, your questions vanish. You no longer ask if it will come. You begin to prepare for its arrival. You begin to give thanks for its presence. You begin to move through life with the quiet confidence of someone who already has the answer. And that confidence becomes magnetic. It draws the necessary components into your life, not by force, but by resonance. Living from the end also redefines your relationship with challenges. You stop seeing obstacles as signs to quit and start seeing them as part of the unfolding. Because you are not trying to become, you already are. Every delay, every disappointment is simply a piece of the larger design, necessary only to test your inner certainty. The end is not threatened by appearances. If you can feel it fully, you can live it boldly, no matter what seems to oppose you. There is a freedom in this approach that most people never experience. No longer a slave to appearances, you become the master of meaning. No longer pushed and pulled by circumstance, you walk steadily in your chosen direction, knowing that the world will eventually yield. And it always does. The world cannot deny the inner truth that has been accepted without condition. It is compelled to reflect it. You are not on your way to success, you are success. You are not on your way to love, you are love. You are not chasing abundance, you are abundance. And the more deeply you inhabit that reality, the more naturally it unfolds. The end is not somewhere far away. It is here. It lives in your imagination, your speech, your posture, your choices. It is not something you wait for. It is something you live from. This is the real act of faith, not hoping for a better future, but embodying it now. Not praying with desperation, but praising with certainty. Not working for a dream, but waking up in it. Every great shift in your life will begin the moment you stop moving toward and start moving from. Because the moment you claim the end, the universe begins to respond, and what once seemed distant becomes your everyday reality. The universe responds to assumption, not desperation. This is the dividing line between those who experience the fulfillment of their desires and those who remain trapped in longing. Desperation is the energy of lack. It signals to the universe that what you want is far away, out of reach, something separate from you. Assumption, on the other hand, is the quiet, confident energy of possession. It does not plead, it does not hope, it simply rests in the knowing that what is imagined is already true. The universe, which is simply the mirror of your inner state, cannot give you what you do not believe yourself to already have. It must reflect back what you assume to be real. People often confuse wanting something intensely with aligning to it. But want and assumption are not the same. Want acknowledges absence. It is born from noticing what is missing. It cries out with the belief that what it seeks has not yet arrived. This emotional state creates more of itself, more distance, more delay, more confirmation that the thing is still not here. Assumption, however, does not carry the same weight. It is lighter, it is still. It assumes not because it sees, but because it knows. It imagines with conviction and feels with clarity. It does not wait for external validation to begin feeling the truth within. It lives in the end long before the end shows up. When you operate from desperation, your mind is flooded with doubt. You ask, what if it doesn't happen? You look around, measuring your progress by external signs. Every hour that passes without visible change becomes a reason to panic. You begin to question your worthiness, your ability, even the process itself. This unstable inner world creates unstable outer results. You try harder, think more, force affirmations, overwork your visualizations, yet nothing seems to move. That's because the energy behind your action is rooted in fear. And fear cannot produce fulfillment. It only magnifies what you're afraid of. Lack, failure, disappointment, assumption, however, is effortless. Not because it requires no imagination, but because it flows from a high level of belief. It is the quiet confidence of one who has seen the truth within and no longer requires the outer world to catch up before choosing joy, peace, or gratitude. When you assume something is already yours, you behave differently. You relax, you let go. You stop obsessing over the details and start living in the feeling. And this feeling is the language the universe understands. The universe does not respond to effort, it responds to alignment. People who operate in assumption often appear to others as if they are doing very little, and yet everything seems to unfold for them. Their lives move with grace, not because they are lucky or special, but because they have made the inner shift that allows life to meet them in ease. They are not trying to make something happen. They are allowing what already exists within to be expressed without. This is not magic. It is the law of consciousness. You cannot trick the universe. You cannot say one thing with your words while believing another in your heart and expect real results. You must believe so deeply that the thought becomes a knowing, and the knowing becomes a state of being. From that state, you no longer need to speak to convince yourself. Your belief is already active. And that active inner world begins to form its counterpart in the visible world. This is why you must watch the tone of your inner dialogue. Are you saying, I hope it happens? Or are you saying it's already done? Are you visualizing your dream with urgency and anxiety, or with delight and ease? Are you praying out of fear or praising out of faith? Your emotional posture tells the truth, even when your lips speak something else. If your assumption is real, your world must reflect it. But if your state is still rooted in lack, no amount of action will override it. People misunderstand assumption as mere mental repetition. But it is not repetition that transforms, it is immersion. To assume is to become. You are not saying that something will be, you are living in the vibration that it already is. You are dressing yourself in the energy of the outcome. You are saturating your mind with images, your heart with feeling, and your imagination with certainty. And because the universe is responsive, not reactive, it will begin to return to you the experiences that match that inner saturation. Desperation, on the other hand, is exhausting. It drains your energy. It causes you to act from a place of instability. You second guess yourself. You chase validation. You become entangled in the need for speed, as if the speed proves the worth of your desire. But the more desperate you become, the further your desire seems to move. That is not coincidence. It is cause and effect. Desperation declares, I am not yet, while assumption whispers, I am already. Your assumption is not arrogance. It is not prideful or boastful. It is quiet, grounded, and often invisible to others. It does not need to announce itself. Its results speak on its behalf. The one who assumes does not need to convince others. They only need to be true to their own inner knowing. And that inner knowing, once stable, becomes magnetic. It draws to itself the pieces, the people, the timing, the moments that match its frequency. It does not need to beg or explain. It simply receives. So when you feel the urge to panic, to rush, to fix things, pause, ask yourself, am I acting from faith or from fear? Am I moving because I believe it is done, or because I am afraid it won't be? If your answer is fear, then you are in desperation, and desperation creates delay. But if your answer is trust, then you are in assumption, and assumption collapses time. Let yourself sink deeply into the reality that what you desire is already real. Let your heart believe it before your eyes see it. Let your body carry the posture of fulfillment. Let your mind stop running through plans and strategies and instead rest in the simplicity of knowing everything you desire already exists. It is not waiting to be created. It is waiting for you to assume it as yours. And when you do, when your assumption becomes unwavering, the universe responds not out of pity or reward, but out of perfect alignment. Because it always responds to who you are being, not who you are trying to become. Faith is felt. Act as if you already have what you ask for. This is not about pretending. It is not about fooling yourself or others. It is about embodying the truth of the unseen before the world validates it. Faith is not a statement you recite with your mouth. It is a vibration you carry in your being. You cannot manufacture it by force, nor can you mimic it through mere words. Real faith settles into your body, shifts your posture, changes your tone of voice, and alters the rhythm of your thoughts. It is not something you try to believe. It is something you accept so deeply that you begin to act from it without hesitation or doubt. When you act as if you already have what you asked for, you are not playing a role. You are aligning with the version of yourself that already exists in another dimension of possibility. You are stepping into that identity, not because the outer world has changed, but because the inner world has. And the universe, always listening, always responding, adjusts the mirror of your life accordingly. It doesn't wait for conditions to improve before responding to you. It responds the moment you believe. But this belief must be emotional, not intellectual. You can understand all the theories, read all the books, and speak all the affirmations, yet still remain stuck if your feelings are rooted in doubt. Faith does not live in the mind. It resides in the heart, in the gut, in the silence of certainty. It's that calm in the middle of the storm. It's that assurance when there's no evidence. It's that whisper inside you that says, it's done, even when nothing around you has changed. That is the faith that moves mountains. Not the frantic shouting, but the still knowing